Here's Hanserling making up a whole bunch of stuff, and then Obama's response to it when Obama was talking to the House Republicans.
Jeb, Mr. President.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Mr. President, a year ago, I had an opportunity to speak to you about the national debt. Mr. President, shortly after that conversation a year ago, the Republicans proposed a budget, and unfortunately, I believe that budget was ignored. The old annual deficits under Republicans have now become the monthly deficits under Democrats. The national debt, this is what I don't understand, Mr. President. After that discussion, your administration proposed a budget that would triple the national debt over the next 10 years. Surely you don't believe 10 years from now we will still be mired in this recession. Now, very soon, Mr. President, you're due to submit a new budget. And my question
Jim, I know there's a question in there somewhere, because you're making a whole bunch of assertions, half of which I disagree with, and I'm having to sit here listening to them. At some point, I know you're going to let me answer.
That's the question. You are soon to submit a new budget, Mr. President. Will that new budget, like your old budget, triple the national debt and continue to take us down the path of increasing the cost of government to almost 25% of our economy? That's the question, Mr. President.
Jim, with all due respect, I've just got to take this last question as an example of how it's very hard to have the kind of bipartisan work that we're going to do, because the whole question was structured as a talking point for running a campaign. Now, look, let's talk about the budget once again, because I'll go through it with you line by line. The fact of the matter is that when we came into office, the deficit was $1.3 trillion. 1.3. So when you say that suddenly I've got a monthly budget that is higher than the annual, or a monthly deficit that's higher than the annual deficit left by the Republicans, that's factually just not true. And you know it's not true.
All right, now that was Obama getting tough, right? By my book, that wasn't very tough at all, right? I'd have gone back to him and been like, hey, listen, you Hanserling clown. Now, look, with a 1.3, 1.2, people make arguments either way. I'm going to go with a more conservative number, that it was a $1.2 trillion deficit left to Obama, okay? So I'll trim some of what Obama said. I go to Hanserling and say, listen, we're on national TV now. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you understand anything about numbers? Do you understand and acknowledge here that I was left a $1.2 trillion deficit? Because there's no arguing it. It's not. He said at that point, I disagree with a lot of what you're saying. It's not a matter of disagreeing. It's a matter of facts. Now, will you now admit to your, to your followers that you've been making up stuff about, oh, the monthly deficits now are larger than the yearly deficits were before? Out of your ass. You made it up, okay? Where's your numbers? That's a lie, okay? So now he can't do that because he's reaching out in a bipartisan manner. So we can't have that, right? Now, so that's why what Obama said there seemed very tough to us, because Obama never hits the Republicans, right? But I'd put Hanserling on the spot and say, I need you to agree right now is a $1.2 trillion deficit that your party left behind. You never voted against those bills. You voted for all those Bush bills. Do you not agree? And it's not a matter of dispute or agreement. You have to right now concede that is what you did, Hanserling, not what I did. Of course, he didn't go in that direction, so now Hanserling, and I love in the middle, he's like almost surprised, like, this seems like a campaign slogan. Oh, you don't say, really? Of course! You think they're trying to talk to you in a reasonable way? So here comes Hanserling. He's on the Washington Journal, and he's going to get a question about raising taxes, and he's going to pull more things out of his ass. Let's watch.
Kathleen Wright sends us this question for you by Twitter. She writes, we're $12 trillion in debt. When do we start raising taxes to pay for it?
Well, I personally don't believe that we are undertaxed. I think instead we have a spending problem in Washington. You look at the record, taxes are still going up substantially over the last decade.
Not true.
And so taxes have consistently run, if you look in the post-war era, about 18.5% of our economy. Now, spending has been about 20% of our economy, but under the spending programs that we have now,
In the next generation, spending is going to go from 20% of the economy to 40% of the economy. And that's why Republicans would like to put on binding spending caps and force Congress to do what they needed to do and figure out reforms and draw up priorities. I myself am working on a constitutional amendment that would ensure that the federal budget doesn't grow beyond the ability of the family budget to pay for it. And that is limit the growth of government, with the exception of emergencies and declarations of war, but limit the growth of government to the growth of the economy. Otherwise, we're on the verge of being the first generation in America's history to leave the next generation with fewer jobs, less opportunity, less freedom, and a lower standard of living.
Who caused that job collapse, punk?
Whoever Twittered who said, why don't we raise taxes? We can do that. But all the estimates are, if you want to balance the budget in the next 10 years by raising taxes, you will have to put a 60% tax increase on the American people. How many Americans will no longer own a home, send a kid to college, or start a business because of a crushing 60% tax increase? That's the magnitude of the tax increase that would be necessary to balance the budget, and I'm not going to go there.
I mean, this guy's awesome, man. He just makes stuff up. He's like, first of all, in the last decade, taxes have gone up a lot. The exact opposite is true. We had literally record-breaking tax cuts in the last year. Okay. Then he makes up a number of, if we, in order to balance the deficit in the future, we'd have to raise taxes to, what do I got here? Is it 50? Is it 70? 60%. Totally made it up. Okay. Where? Which study says that? Which think tank has that? Where? Nowhere, right? And second of all, I mean, think about this, right? Again, it's another straw man argument. We either raise taxes to 60% or we don't raise them at all. Can we try 40%? Can we try 42%? And can we try that not for everybody, but for people making over $250,000 a year? Can we try that? Nope. If you're going to raise taxes, it's going to be 60%, and the American people don't want that. Okay. So now he claims that he's in favor of deficit reduction, which is rather curious because we just voted on a couple of things, including in the House, on pay-as-you-go. So if you're going to increase spending, you have to find a way to pay for it so that it's deficit neutral. Now, this is something that the Republicans claim they're in favor of, or have claimed that they're in favor of for a long time. Came up for a vote. Guess how many Republicans voted for it? Donut. 0. They all voted against deficit reduction. Why did Hanserling and all of his friends do that if they claim they want deficit reduction? It's because all they want to do is defeat Obama. And if Obama reduces the deficit, well, then they can't attack him politically for not reducing the deficit. So they're going to vote against it, okay? So that's where you know they're 100% disingenuous. But it continues. How about job creation? Because you said you wanted job creations. In fact, we did a clip for you guys a couple of months ago where Boehner and everyone else comes up with the same slogan, and it was fed to them by Frank Luntz, which is jobs, 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 which is what they've been saying all along, and that Obama's focusing on health care and other things when he should have been just focusing on jobs. So Obama puts together a jobs bill. Guess what happens? That's right, 0 Republican votes. They don't have any other alternative. They vote against deficit reduction. They vote against the jobs bill. So what happened to jobs, jobs, jobs? All right, well, in the Senate, they got a deficit reduction commission, which I don't agree with, okay? I think it's a fraud to cut Social Security and Medicare. But who proposed it? The Republicans did. So that comes up for a vote, and guess what happened? Most of the Republicans voted against that. It was their own proposal. That's the commission they wanted. Obama says, okay, let's do your commission. They vote against it. Why? Because they just want to kill everything that Obama proposes. And they don't want to fix anything, because God forbid if we fix anything, if the economy gets better or the American taxpayer does a little better, well, then they can't blame the Democrats for the problems. You understand how this game is played? And Obama's going to come and have a gentle conversation with this duplicitous son of a bitch? Well, that's not how I'd roll. Okay? And if you care about doing the right things, getting the right bills passed, and winning politically, both of those things, you wouldn't let Hanserling get away with these lies.